This is part 2 of my Pokemon Legends Arceus rewrite. If you haven't seen part 1, I recommend you watch it first. I cover the bulk of the game from the premise to the modified role of the Wardens to all of the Frenzied Noble encounters. We pick up today after you've calmed the noble Avalugg. That evening, Kamado congratulates you for your successes, but the feeling of accomplishment only lasts until the morning. The rift in the sky has grown. The sky has turned red, and Kamado's distrust of your origins has turned into downright fear. He expels you from the Galaxy team and banishes you from Jubilife Village until a solution can be found. But Kamado is not entirely heartless. He appreciates the work you've done and doesn't want you to die out there, so he gives you a chance to prepare before Silene marches you out of town. You visit the stables, ensure you're wearing appropriate clothing, and collect your valuable items. There is no telling when you'll be able to return. This addresses my big frustration that I had with that banishment sequence, that I was forced to keep the heavy clothing that I was wearing to go to the Icelands. And it also drives home that you might be completely alone for who knows how long. Silene escorts you to the Obsidian Fieldlands, accompanied by Ray and Laventon. They recommend you seek shelter and perhaps try to get help from the Diamond and Pearl clans. But from here, you're alone. You will no longer be able to shop or exchange Pokemon with a Galaxy team member or take a rest at a campsite. You get no instructions on what to do next except don't die alone out there. That's an order. I think it's important for the player to actually have a chance to feel lost, to not know what to do next, so that this moment is allowed its full emotional weight. If you meet Mai or Leon out in the Fieldlands, they will be cautious but supportive, although they will refuse to help you without permission from their clan leaders. After a day or two, you will eventually come across Volo, who will guide you to the ancient retreat to meet Kojita. She offers you a safe haven and instructs you to visit the 3 lakes of Hisui to collect the pieces of the legendary Red Chain, which can bind the world together. Adamant and Irida also show up to offer their help, although they don't want to sour their relationship with the Galaxy team by being seen with you. They give you a choice. Either the Diamond clan or the Pearl clan will help you rest and manage your supplies. They essentially take the role of the Galaxy team member you find at camps, but in a more limited manner. The other clan won't intervene. Again, I think it's important to drive home that you are not a Galaxy team member at this point. And you won't be getting help from the leaders either, they are too well known. So let's say that you pick the help of the Diamond clan. If you pick the Pearl clan, some of the roles would be reversed, but you get the idea. Volo will keep post at the retreat in case you need to buy any goods, and of course Silene secretly sends you her Abra to help you reach the stables. You head off on your own to the first of the 3 lakes. At each one, you encounter a powerful and unusual alpha Pokemon on or near the island at the middle of the lake. Once you defeat them, a mysterious light shines on the boulder in front of you, magically revealing an entrance. The image of you walking up to a rock and texting God to let you in is kind of ridiculous, but the trope of you accomplishing something and then an entrance revealing itself, that is pretty established in Pokemon. I think defeating a unique, out-of-place alpha Pokemon serves that well enough. You go in and meet one of the Lake Guardians. Their challenges are going to be a bit more involved than they were in the original. At Lake Acuity, Uxie will test your knowledge of Pokemon with 3 riddles. At Lake Verity, Mesprit will test your compassion, and no, not every possible answer is an acceptable one. At Lake Valor, Azelf will test your determination by challenging you to hit it with an item, but repeatedly dodging without giving any indication that you are doing the right thing until it feels satisfied that you would not give up. Each of them will grant you a piece of the Red Chain for passing their trials. Once you collect the 3rd piece, all 3 Lake Spirits will appear to combine the segments into a full Red Chain. I just never liked that you collect all 3 items and then separately have to go get the Red Chain. Just streamline it. You return to the ancient retreat and learn through Volo that Pokemon have been sighted through the rift, and that Commander Kamado has made his way up Mount Coronet to confront the threat head-on. You decide to go straight there to intervene. Again, this is to make the section a bit more streamlined. On your way to the peak of Mount Coronet, a mysterious ninja stops you in the stone portal. This is not someone you've ever seen before, and yet they refer to you by name. They tell you about Kamado's life before coming to Hisui, but it's not enough to deter you, so they battle you. It's only after you defeat them that the ninja finally says, "Very well, you win," and removes his mask to reveal that he is Benny. Benny revealing that he is a ninja is more confusing than anything else, but a ninja that poses a challenge and then turns out to be the unassuming Benny, that's a much more effective mind blow. Benny asks you to save Kamado from himself. And that's your very next battle. Kamado is just outside the Temple of Sinnoh, ready to barge in. Adaman, Irida, Laventon, and Ray are there with him, trying to talk him down, but Kamado is headstrong. Even when you tell him you have found a solution, that you have obtained the red chain that can control the Pokemon of the Rift, he refuses to let you lead until you beat him in battle. He is a powerful trainer, but you best him, and you press on toward the temple dais, above which the rift is widening. Dialga descends from the rift. The same rift that already exists, not a new wormhole that opens up for no reason, but it is clearly not frenzied. It isn't glowing. The red chain encircles it. Laventon suggests that you try to catch Dialga, so you nod and start a battle. With the red chain in action, this isn't a difficult battle. It's once you catch Dialga that your luck starts to turn. Palkia now descends from the rift, and it is glowing. You use the red chain again, but this time, maybe because its power was used up, or maybe because this legendary is frenzied, the red chain splits again, and its 3 pieces fly off into the distance. This makes it a lot clearer what the effect of the red chain was, and why it failed and broke. With no more red chain and no idea how to handle this new threat, you retreat down the mountain to regroup and make a new plan. Irida, the leader of the clan you didn't pick as your helpers, will tell you that she has some old texts and artifacts back at the village that might be able to help, so you follow her to the village in the Icelands. She shows you ancient scrolls the clan keeps on display. You may have seen them in the village before, but you can now inspect them more closely. One is a poem, and one is a painting. This is basically the replacement for Dialga giving instructions via Adaman. We can get much better lore without the cryptic telepathy. The painting depicts 4 Pokemon. The one at the top looks kind of like Palkia, but not exactly. And below it are Dusknoir, Probopass, and Bronzong. Dusknoir, Probopass, and Bronzong appear to be making an offering to Palkia, though you can't tell what it is. The Diamond Clan version of this painting is similar, but it depicts Mamoswine, Magnezone, and Chatot making an offering to Dialga. You realize that these are the Pokemon you need to research in order to figure out what kind of food the legendary will like. There will be one particular kind of food those 3 like, and that's the bomb you need to craft. The poem is a bit obscure, but you can tell it is hinting at what you need to control a frenzied deity. The Stone of Creation's Beginning, the Chain of Red, the Vessel of Humankind's Invention. The Stone of Creation's Beginning is the tricky one. Nobody's quite sure what it refers to. Adaman and Irida are tasked with consulting their wardens for any insights they might have. You'll have to return to this task later. But the Vessel of Humankind's Invention is clear, and Laventon and Ray are tasked with figuring out how to incorporate these unknown and unexpected materials into the construction of a Pokeball. And the Chain of Red is obvious. Sounds like you'll have to go searching for the 3 scattered pieces of the red chain. I liked the way that the original made this pretty much everyone's job. Everyone is working together here, but it almost completely took away the player's agency. So in this version, everyone has their separate tasks, but you still have something that you need to accomplish on your own. The next time you visit Jubilife Village, Ress, the guard at the gate, tells you about something falling from the sky near Prelude Beach, and that he's heard similar reports from the Cobalt Coastlands and Alabaster Icelands. When you investigate Prelude Beach, you find a piece of the red chain, and with it, you can have Ursaluna sniff out the other 2 pieces. Next, you seek out Irida and Adaman for their report on the Stone of Creation's Beginning. They have brought together Leon, Melly, and Ingo, who somehow managed to overcome their bickering and actually work together. They think the Primeval Grotto on Mount Coronet might be the place to look since it has the oldest exposed rock in the region. If you visited this area before, you may have noticed the fossilized Pokemon, but nothing else. If you bring Dialga here, it will jump out of its Pokeball as you approach one of the walls and roar, and the crystals on the wall will begin to glow. Dialga will then grant you the Draco Plate, and that's when you realize that the plates are related to the creation of Hisui. With the Origin Ore now glowing, you can break one of the crystals and collect some ore using your Pokemon, just as you would for a Tumblestone crystal. Finally, it is time to craft the Origin Ball. You bring the red chain and the Origin Ore to Ray and Laventon at the Galaxy headquarters. They think they figured out how to do it, but they want you to do the honors. Ray gives you the Origin Ball crafting recipe and shows you to his workbench. With the Origin Ball in hand, an armful of space bombs at the ready, and Dialga on your team, you ascend to the Temple of Sinnoh once again. Palkia is still at the dais where you left it, still glowing and frenzied. You send out Dialga, but before you can engage, Palkia transforms. The real battle begins. Palkia's health and HP bars are divided into a whopping 6 segments. It takes a lot of dodging, a lot of feeding, and a lot of battling, but you whittle it down, and eventually Palkia gives you the opening you need to toss the Origin Ball and catch it. The rift is closed. The sky is back to normal. The Diamond and Pearl clan seem to be getting along and working together for the first time in possibly ever. But the credits don't roll. The credits rolling here mistakenly implies that you've finished the game, or at least the important part of the game. But the adventure isn't over. For one, you still have requests to fulfill. Most of the requests that you complete throughout the game wouldn't play any different role than they already do, except for one. Almus of the Agriculture Corps asks you to catch Combee from 3 different locations so he can sample their honey. The Grueling Grove, Apom Hill, and Ramanas Island. The one on Ramanas Island isn't roaming, you have to knock it out of a shaking tree. But when you do, you get swarmed. It's not only one Combee that jumps out, but 5 of them, and an Alpha Vespiquen. Yes, it's a 6v1 battle, one of the toughest wild Pokemon encounters you will have. But when you manage to catch one of the Combee and defeat the rest, plus the Alpha Vespiquen, and take that Combee back to Almus, he will reward you with the Insect Plate. This replaces the random Alpha Vespiquen that gives you the Stone Plate in the original. Instead, we have a sort of homage to honey trees and a more remarkable encounter to mark this plate with. It also sets you back on the track of searching for and investigating the plates. And of course, you still have the Pokédex. Seek out all Pokemon rings in your mind. The Lake Guardians, you know where to find. You've already met them at this point, so there isn't much mystery. But there are rumors of other Pokemon that may or may not even be real. Silene requests that you seek out these old legends that few people know. Maybe you'll end up identifying a rare Pokemon, learning something more about the plates, and even about Arceus. Kojita and Volo know a few, but they alone don't know enough, so you'll need to gather information from several characters to piece together the truth. Getting a list of quests from Kojita was convenient, but it didn't make a lot of sense. She can't know every detail of every Hisuian legend. We will need her help, but we'll need help from others too. Every remaining plate that you have left to collect requires some exploration, talking to a few people, and maybe even a little bit of plot. And although I'm talking about all of them here at the end, I imagine that some of them could be treated as requests that come up earlier in the game to even out the pacing a little better. Kojita tells you about the significance of Prelude Beach. It was always a place known for new beginnings, even before the Galaxy team arrived on Hisui and settled Jubilife Village. Perhaps Kamado knows more. When you speak to him, he leads you to the beach for another battle, a friendly one this time. And when you defeat him, he hands you the Fist Plate, which was dug up during construction of Jubilife Village. Ginter, the merchant of the Ginkgo Guild, also has a hint for you. He's heard reports from other merchants of unusual weather showing up again in the Alabaster Icelands, but this time there are also reports from the Cobalt Coastlands and the Obsidian Fieldlands. In each of these areas, you will find one particular location where the weather is unchanging. No matter the time of day or what the weather may be elsewhere in the area, these locations are always stormy. And at the center of each one, you will find Tornadus, Thundurus, and Landorus. Once you catch all 3 and check in with Ginter, he will warn you that the same phenomenon has now appeared in the Crimson Mirelands. There, you will find an Amorous, and once you catch it, you are given the Pixie Plate. Polina will visit the Galaxy Team headquarters to inform you that she thinks something may be awry with the volcano on Firespit Island. The lava hasn't been flowing the way it used to since the Misfortune Sisters were there. If you glide or climb to the top of the volcano, which has a small ledge just big enough to stand on, you'll see the magma level inside is very low. You'll have to find some Misfortunes to figure this out, and they appear somewhat randomly throughout the map. The first time you run into one of them, the other 2 will also appear, and all 3 challenge you to a battle. And when you win, they reveal that they made off the island with a peculiar stone. They thought it might be valuable, but nobody's been willing to buy it, so they accidentally drop it when they leave. This is the Magma Stone. When you bring it back to Firespit and drop it into the volcano, you hear a roar and the island shakes. Heatran will now appear in the chamber below, where you can catch it and earn the Iron Plate. With the Magma Stone returned, the lava starts flowing normally again. Volo has heard an old story that Snow Point Temple has a great monster locked away inside it, but nobody can figure out how to get to it. So, you go to Snow Point Temple to investigate for yourself. Besides the main staircase that leads from the entrance room to the balcony, there is another staircase that leads down, deeper into the temple. This path is a maze and a puzzle, requiring you that you follow the gaze of statues to press the rock, ice, and steel panels in the right order. You could even complete this part earlier on your first visit to Snow Point Temple, but at the end of this maze is a massive locked door. Sabi will be waiting for you here to tell you that nobody has been able to open the door in generations. But you notice that below the rock, ice, and steel panels on this door are slots that seem about the size of the plates you've been collecting. Depending on the order you complete these investigations in, you may or may not have all the plates by the time you get here, but when you do, you can fit them into the slots to unlock the door, catch Regigigas, and collect the blank plate. Vegeta has heard of a Pokemon that appears where you may meet the moon's gaze unobstructed. She thinks this might be something to do with Ursaluna, so you look for Kalaba for further insight. But Kalaba knows that the best place to see the moon isn't in the Crimson Mirelands. She tells you that on a clear, full moon night, high up on Mount Coronet, the moon view is unmatched. Under those conditions, you will find Cresselia, wandering between the arena, the Sacred Plaza, and Celestica Ruins, and in catching it, you can collect the Dread Plate. That's when Volo approaches you. He thinks he may have a clue for where to find the last plate, and asks you to join him at Celestica Ruins. You find him eyeing the broken-down statue of Giratina. He tells you his theory that Giratina might appear to face Arceus at the Temple of Sinnoh. The rest of the game plays out pretty much the way the original did. You follow Volo to the Temple Dais, he reveals himself, battles you, and summons Giratina. When you defeat it, Volo hands you the Spooky Plates, and your Celestica Flute transforms into the Azure Flute. But if you play the flute right away, Arceus will remind you that your quest is not yet complete. After you've caught Giratina at Turnback Cave, and any other Pokemon that you may still be missing at this point, you report your findings to Laventon, who congratulates you and thanks you for all of the work that you've put in the Pokedex. But before you go back up to the Temple of Sinnoh, Laventon suggests that you go to the Wallflower to speak to Benny. As it turns out, Benny feels guilty for having treated you so poorly throughout the entire game, and he wanted to make it up to you. So he asked Laventon to share the Pokemon data you've been collecting, and he also got help from several other villagers, like Colza and the others at the farm, Moral and his Parasect, Almas from the Honey Quest, and even Radisa and her Graveler from the Sevi Kitchen. With everyone pitching in, Benny was able to invent a Pokemon food recipe that appeals to Pokemon of all kinds. Even the maker of Hisui would love these, he says. These are food items that can make your future explorations a bit simpler, but they are also the only food item that Arceus will show interest in. Benny won't share the recipe, but he does give you a load of them, and you can always stop by to buy more. So, with every Pokemon recorded in your Pokedex, your pockets brimming with mysterious bombs, and the Azure Flute yearning to be played, you ascend to the peak of Mount Coronet once more, and meet your maker. This encounter with Arceus will be the most difficult you've had. Arceus requires 7 cycles of feeding and battling, so this will be a long and arduous process. But you're the new hero of Hisui. You have met and studied every Pokemon in the region. You can do this. It's only after you've proved yourself to Arceus and acquired his worldly avatar that the credits finally roll. The main story is over, but in the postgame you can investigate the massive outbreaks from Daybreak, pursue the quests for mythical Pokemon like Shaman and Manaphy, and continue to complete Pokemon research tasks if you want to earn the Shiny Charm. But I don't need to worry about those, these videos have been long enough already. I hope you enjoyed them, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Thank you to all of my lovely patrons for supporting this project, especially luxury patrons Ethan from Chicago, Freebird Nerd, and Seafood Dinner, and cherished patron Wispy White Smoke. And thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next chapter.